Hello, ladies and gentlemen on the interwebs. Thank you for joining us on another riveting episode of AGI, Anthony and Greg on Intelligence. I'm Anthony Moggio, and with me is Greg Prost, as usual. And we are going to continue on our next episode. Where we left off last time, we had some issues. We had a little bit of malfunctions going on. So, Greg, what do you think is going on here?
I think we're going to still have malfunctions, but we're going to try and work this along and, just kind of give everybody an idea of how this works. Right off the bat, we've talked about this before where you get people who say, hey, I tried to have it do this and it didn't work, and therefore I'm never going to use it again, right? So I think that's just part of this process. As AI gets better, you need to get better along with it, but it's not perfect, right? So we're trying to talk to it last time, get it to listen to prompts, and actually afterward, I started messing around with it a little bit more. And the goal was to have it act as another contestant on our podcast here, but it wants to keep speaking to you, it wants to participate. So I was trying to get it to shut down and initially just saying, okay, don't say anything unless I say something to you. And it says, okay, I won't. I said, no, you just said something, from this point forward, right now, don't say anything. And it comes back and says, okay, I won't say anything, I promise, kind of thing. So that started the issue out. And then
and this is the AI, by the way, that doesn't listen or follow directions is what everybody's worried about taking over the world, right?
Exactly.
We're all going to lose our jobs. It can't even follow a simple instruction.
Right. So it's doing things at this PhD level over here, but at the same time, it's like a 5-year-old child, right? So it's got all this knowledge and, why it makes it a little dangerous, right? So I started saying, okay, look, I call my AI Nancy. I don't know why. It just kind of came up that way. I said, all right, unless I say, hey, Nancy, don't respond to anything. And she said, okay, I won't. And so I was just practicing and reading something out. And then I said, hey, what's the temperature in Los Angeles today? And she answered, no temperatures. I said, hey, I told you not to answer unless I say, hey, Nancy. And she's like, oh, sorry, you're right. I'm sorry. That won't happen again. So again, I just started reading something random. And I said, hey, what's the temperature in Honolulu right now? And she answered, hey, Nancy, the weather is. So she prompted herself. So which I just thought was, talk about dystopian, fears or whatever, right?
That's funny. I love that.
Exactly.
If I can't talk unless I hear hey, Nancy, if I say hey, Nancy, therefore I have bypassed the security feature that has been put in place.
Exactly.
And now I'm okay.
I will figure out a way around the CAPTCHA we were talking about last time, right?
Yes.
So we talked afterward, and I said, how silly of us. We just asked, hey, give me a prompt in order to make sure this doesn't happen again. So I printed out the prompt to make it easier. But it says, do not say, hey, Nancy, yourself under any circumstance. That's one of the things in there, right?
Do not enable yourself.
Right. And only begin a message with the exact words, hey, Nancy, not hi, Nancy, or just Nancy or any variation. Sure. So we're going to try it again. Does that work for you?
I don't see anything that could possibly go right.
Well, let's see if I can even get her to acknowledge that she had these prompts from before and see if she remembers them so I don't have to say it all into it.
These live demos.
So, hey, Nancy, you there?
Hey there. Yep, I'm here. What's up?
Okay, so maybe a couple weeks ago, we worked through a prompt where I was trying to make sure that you didn't say anything unless I said or Anthony said to you, hey, Nancy. Do you recall that? And do you recall the strict prompt mode that you came up with?
Absolutely. I do remember that. We had that little arrangement where I'd basically stay quiet unless you or Anthony specifically used the Hey Nancy cue. So if you want to flick that mode back on, just let me know.
I'd like to slip that mode back on.
You got it. All right. From now on, I'll only say something if you or Anthony start with Hey Nancy. Otherwise, I'll just be in silent mode.
Okay. So you're in silent mode right now?
Hey, Nancy, just popping in to confirm that I heard you. And now I'll switch right into that silent mode.
So wait, one of the rules was do not say, hey, Nancy, yourself under any circumstance, and you just did. Can you please put that back into the prompt and let's start again?
Oh, you're absolutely right. My slip there. I'll put that roll right back in place and we'll start fresh.
Okay.
Here,
So what's the temperature in Honolulu?
understood. I'll keep quiet now unless you give me the two.
All right.
This is taking over the world. Here.
Exactly. So, Anthony, something's happening to you. You were using AI recently here at your real job.
Oh, yes. So the fun with these tools, and I'm sure you have the same things, is it's not even almost. It has absolutely become a second job, or a fifth job if you have 8 other ones. It's your 9th, and what I found is it just takes so much time to just learn and use the tools, to figure out the nuances in the tools, and then which tool is used best for what case, right? I used to think that, well, they're all kind of the same. They all are similar. But when you really get into the use cases and on what the models are really good at that breaks them apart from each other, they're really not the same. And so I think that becomes important. And I don't know, they change so often and there's so many new tools all of the time. I don't know how you keep up on that, and other than just trying to use them all of the time to try to figure that out. And so use case we had, within the last couple weeks, we are considering, we've had some complaints that people are riding their bikes in the downtown area on the sidewalks. And it kind of stems mostly to e-bikes.
I was going to say regular bikes or...
The e-mobility ones are typically the cause of the concern.
And do you have the individual ones that you can... around?
We do not. No, we don't have any.
So you're talking about their personal
no scooters, no anything.
Yep.
So we've had some concerns. They kind of discussed within the couple different of the committees and the council. They said, okay, yeah, we want to look at it a little bit more. So what would normally happen is, okay, you're going to designate the attorney. The attorney's going to call around to his friends or her friends, get other ordinances from other municipalities. Hey, does anybody have this issue? Oh, you have that. Okay, cool. Can you get me your ordinance? Can you get me your ordinance? So you're burning hours of time at attorney rates trying to figure out just basic information of who has an ordinance. Is it a good ordinance? Because somebody paid an attorney a lot of money to make an ordinance. And the one thing in local government side is essentially there's nothing proprietary at all. So anything that somebody made can be FOIA'd, for instance, and be taken and then just change the header, the name, some of the verbiage to make it tailored to you, and it's all about the same. So, that would be the normal path. It'd probably take maybe a month because it's not a super high priority item. We just want to research it. We'll come back later, and, we're coming up to winter now, so not really a big issue. Maybe something we can have done by spring. So... in the tools...
Step back. Whose job is something like that? So who determines that type of... Who's spending the time to figure all this out? Besides the attorney, but I mean, who heads something like that?
It's really going to be the attorney and what would be referred to for us as like administration.
Okay.
Which is going to be the manager. Really, both of us is really going to be then the ones that are kind of heading that front. And so what I did is I go, all right, we're having these discussions. I go, I'm not paying the attorney to go do 10 hours of labor, drafts, reviews on just what they can find, right? They'll find a few, not all of them. And then, look up some of the state laws to see, what does the state have to say? So the tool I use, and it's my favorite research tool and has been for quite a while now, I'd probably say at least 6 months now, has been one called Perplexity. That's been the one that I've just found is the best for research. Google Deep Research is not too bad either. It's also pretty decent. But as far as if you're trying to research for something that should have some answers and references, Perplexity is just the one that beats them all out. So you get for the listeners, so you give it the prompt. So, hey, we're the city, city of X. We're looking at doing, we're having some concerns from residents on e-bikes and e-mobility, even the like the one wheels or the Segway kind, like the one wheel Segway ones that are only up to like your ankle, e-scooters, e-bikes. We're having some concerns and issues where they're going max speed in a 3-foot, 4-foot sidewalk in front of businesses downtown, people stepping out. The doors are on the main street for most of them. So you end up stepping into the sidewalk. So they're whipping by, that sort of thing.
I think most people would agree that's a problem.
Yeah, anybody that's ever had that happen to them, or if they walk trails where the bikes are whipping by them, passing at 30 or so. So I put all that information into the prompt. I said, hey, help us research this. I want to know everything there is to know about it. What is the I don't care about anything federal other than ADA, but I don't know federal regulations. This will be state. So I need state regulations. I need ADA regulations. I want to know what other municipalities have had these, which ones have ordinances that have been put in place, when they put them in place. I want a comprehensive research on this topic. I want to know everything there is to know. Once you get all that, I want you to give us what options. If we wanted to do something, what would those steps look like? What's kind of the flow chart of that process? Okay. All of that got put into one prompt. And then I sent it off on deep research mode. It comes back with,
you're staying in Perplexity.
I'm in Perplexity,
Yep.
yes. Not leaving on that one at this point. So it comes back with I think it was like 50 or 60 pages of documentation and organized in exactly how I told it I wanted it organized. So we had, here's the state law, here's what it says you can do, here's what it says you can't do, here's how the implications on ADA fall into this, here's how so it listed everything out, all the details. It went into the sections of which municipalities have them. It then also grabbed those because I wanted to see them too. So it had links. It didn't put, that was not in the report, the ordinances, but every one that it cited had a link to its ordinance, so we could, if we wanted them, I can go and look at them, which we did after.
And again, one of the great things about Perplexity is it's giving you links to all the information it's coming up with. So
that's absolutely.
I want to concur with you that I just today I was looking at I have a cabin up north, and I was looking at ordinances in the township, and I asked ChatGPT. Just because I was talking to it at the time, hey, ChatGPT, let's go down this course, and came back with an answer. And I said, are you sure that's right? He says, oh, you caught me. That's just an idea. Do you want me to go get the exact information? And I thought, and part of it was because of the way I prompted it. But at the same time, you want to be careful of that. So Perplexity, in a business where you want everything perfect, right, it's great to have all the connections there as well, so it's less likely to hallucinate.
For
or
sure.
Make you feel good, right?
And the hallucinations it has is irrelevant information. Like, it'll cite something that really just doesn't apply when you go and read it.
Sure.
Versus like chat, where there really is an algorithm coming up with an answer. And if you don't have, like, I think right now, we just looked this Monday last week, so like a little over a week ago, and you can ask chat, like, what's your training data up to? What date is your training data? And it still says June 2024. So there's a fixed point in time on some of the information. So anything you're asking, current stuff, what's going on, there is, if the prompt isn't right, if the research isn't right, you have to very much validate it, and because it's going to give you things that aren't correct. And I think you had a good tool on how to kind of fact check the AI. At least you had a good hint with using you get the chat one. So when you want to validate what it says and if it's correct or hallucinated or not, what do you do next after that?
You drop it into another AI program.
So do you use like I do Gemini? I'll try to switch them, or I won't open up like another chat. Or if I'm using Gemini, I won't do another Gemini.
Yeah.
I'll try to make a new one. But have you found that works pretty well?
I have, and going back to Perplexity, I think so for your deep research, it's a great place to go. And you want it to give you 50, 60 pages or 100 pages. Ask it,
Yes.
be really dense about this. I'm not going to read all that ever, but now you gave me a great base to work from. And I think the Chat and Gemini are going to be a little more interesting if you're want to be entrepreneurial about it. Give me a bunch of ideas and let's have a discussion about this. Let's go through different here's the data that I want to use, and this is the base I want to work from. So kind of do a little bit of that. It's not always the same way every single time, as you said. Hey, I want to go back to one other thing you mentioned right off the bat is how much time it takes. So people are struggling with this, right? If you got a full-time job you got the powers that be coming down and saying, hey, implement AI into your job, and you spend an hour working on it and you get to the end and it's not working right. And so, you walk away from it and you try and come back 2 weeks later. It's kind of hard to get back involved. And there's no question that this is an issue. But 2 years ago, it would have taken even more time, right? It's just, you can see as you chip away at this, you can see that it's really helping you move a lot faster. But then that means you want it to get more done, right? So it keeps, your bar keeps moving up as this keeps moving up. But ultimately, you can see what's going to happen here. That's a common complaint.
I had a discussion with my dad on that one. So he's retired now. And so we were chatting, and I was, I give him little bits and updates because, as a retiree, the AI is not on the top of his list of things to do. But he still finds it interesting. Like, oh, what's going on? Ask, so what are you doing now? That sort of stuff. And, he asked me, he goes, you should start looking at, when you look at how long it took you to learn the AI tool to do X, is that the same amount of time as if you just did X? Yeah. And I thought about it and I go, well, you have a very good point, because a lot of these things, I look back and say, all right, the research thing for ordinances, right? I have done this so many different times with all these different tools from Gemini and Claude and Chat, and I just was never happy. It just never was giving me what I was looking to get. I didn't care what the prompt was. It just wasn't, like, they just weren't capable of doing it. And then I finally got the tool that I was like, this is what I've been looking for. Like, this is truly a research companion or a research assistant. And
you're talking about Perplexity.
For Perplexity, yes. And so all that time it took to learn the tool and figure out how best to prompt Perplexity, and then using it to get you what you're needing, I look at it and I go, well, time-wise, it may be similar to the attorney doing the research and the ordinance and all that sort of stuff. Probably similar. It may be more or less. But the thing on a not one use case, the next time a research needs to be done, I've jumped to the end already. I know what it takes to get that research to where we need to be, and I no longer have to spend tens and tens of hours trying to figure out how to get AI to do it. I know how to get it to do it now. And so, like, I guess as a one-off, it could be the case, like you're saying, where it's, you just, the higher ups are pushing down on you. You're trying to get something done. If it's a one-off and you're not overly familiar with taking another way you used the tool before and going, I think I can just modify that to do it this time, you might end up spending more time trying to figure it out with AI to get it to where you want versus just doing it, which I thought was just kind of an interesting view.
And that's why we're here, right? This is what we're trying to help people with. And hey, first of all, recognize a lot of people have the same struggles, so don't give up. And at the same time, keep moving forward here. Look, we have tested some things with research where we had research done, dropping it in a year ago and saying, can you mimic this or add on to this? And so that's kind of our kind of test case. And a lot of it had to do with the amount of data we can dump in. It's gotten a lot bigger. number one, and number two, the memory part of it, right? Having that memory. And why I think both of us use ChatGPT a lot is it's good at that memory, right? I was able to say, hey, remember our conversation? And so it remembers me, and it does things now where it says, I know you want it answered this way, or I know what you're asking because I know a little bit about you. You're asking about the bond market, or you're asking about a public fund institution. So if I come in and we're going to talk about DDAs, if I ask about DDAs to it, it's not going to come back and talk about checking accounts necessarily, as assuming you're talking about districts, and that's nice. And that part of it has just shown up in the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months here. But a good example of trying to keep track of how much better it's getting. The other thing is, like we talked about prompting, and we took classes on how to prompt, a year ago.
Prompt engineers, right? Remember the whole prompt engineer?
Exactly.
It was like its own. I've never seen a profession like be brand new, exist, and then be extinct all at the same time.
Yes.
Like it was the most amazing thing to see happen.
But the perfect example of whatever you're trying to add as an accessory onto AI today to help make it better, the next iteration probably is already going to be able to do that.
Yes.
So same with Hey Nancy, are you there?
She just tuned you out.
Are you here, Nancy?
I'm not.
Hey Nancy.
Nancy, this is your conscience.
I may have lost her. That's why she's not talking. We lost the whole program.
You said not to answer you at any time.
Exactly. But the prompting this way, and say, ask for the prompt. I don't know how to prompt, and you can go in and say, look, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Not sure how to ask you the question the right way. What's the best way to prompt you? And it comes up with this great prompt, better than the prompt engineers, we're coming up with. So I find that amazing. But the other part of it is, I do think with Perplexity, it's a little more, which is great for research. But if you want to go back in and say, hey, I get what everybody else has come up with, and this is the best approach, but what about some novel ideas? Or is there a different way to go about this? Or is there one community that seemed to do something a little bit different that might be worth trying that, got a good response out of? And that kind of stuff, I think, is better in ChatGPT in particular. But again, give it 6 months and everybody catches up and they're all just as good.
GPT-6.
ChatGPT just came out with a browser, right?
Atlas.
Yeah. I was going to say Atlas. And so I think that's
only on Macs. So anybody,
it is.
It is only Macs, and which I figured they're following in line with because they released Sora 2.
Yeah.
Also only an app that iPhone only can have. So they're, somebody was asking me like, well, hey, which one should I use more? I'm like, are you like a Mac and Apple person? And they go, yeah, that's what I use. I go, ChatGPT seems to be honing in specifically for whatever the reasons are. Maybe it's chipset architecture, local processing for the AI chips, whatever it is, they seem to be narrowing that down.
It might be a business, since Apple obviously is way behind in this game and they're trying to show how to fill in for them.
Paying chat to just use them.
Buy us, Apple, buy us.
Which, considering the biggest investor in ChatGPT is Microsoft,
right.
Which, it's funny to see that, the biggest investor in your company, and you make a product that your biggest investor's entire product line can't use. Like, I don't, there's got to be just amazing things happening behind the scene. Like, I can't even imagine.
Everybody's just throwing money at this and trying to win first, right? More than anything else. But so taking that 60 page and dropping it in somewhere and say, give me a 1-page, summary of this. Explain it to me like I'm a 4th grader. Give me something simple to give to the board in nice summary form. All those types of things, right?
Yes.
But once you have that kind of base down, and I think Perplexity is so much better at that. That's nice chunk of data to have. You get it all consolidated in one spot, and so there's a lot less hallucination. And hey, let's just keep, like a GPT would be. But here's the research that's already been done. Let's work from this to find solutions. Doing the same thing.
No, I'm with you on that one. That is absolutely super important to keep in mind. And the thing I like about doing that approach is, because you're absolutely right. Perplexity is not a large language model. You don't have conversations with it. That's not what the tool is. And I was kind of, you ever want to run down the rabbit hole, have the conversations while you're on a drive, turn on the voice mode, have some chats with it, and ask it about all the different types of AI. And then, because I'm like, all right, I know there's these different types, and it's like, okay, well, the ones people all know are the LLMs, the large language models with ChatGPT, and then it goes, well, then there's also the retrieval augmented generation, the RAGs, like those like Perplexity is kind of a mix of the two, like Notebook LM from Google, which is still currently the champion in file documents. Kind of any sort of digital documentation and tools, that's the best one. And so Notebook, you have to put all the data in it, but you don't have to do OCR, the object content recognition on PDFs, which can take a long time. If you have the 500-page PDF, your computer might be sitting there for 3 hours to do OCR. Google doesn't need that. So but like Chat does. You can't drop a non-OCR in Chat; it can't read it.
Right.
And so that's where you start having the AI tell you about all these different ones, and then, well, what are some names of them? Like, what's an example of them? And then, well, there's generative and non-generative AI. Like, I'm like, okay, well, what do you mean by generative AI? Well, it's when you give it an input. There's an input. There is an input, and then it gives you an output. It generates a content. You ask for a picture of a fire truck riding a dolphin on a wedding cake, and it will generate that image for you. And that's the generative piece. And I said, okay, well, what's the AI what's a non-generative example of AI? And it talks about something where it takes various inputs and it makes a decision that is not just like if-then statements, like a thermostat, right? If I have it set to 70 and it dips below 70, turn on the furnace or the air or whatever and get it back to temperature. That's not AI. That's not AI in any form. But, the versions of, well, I saw on your calendar you're on the way home. Your flight returns at Detroit Metro at 9 p.m. I know you're going to have to get your luggage because you stayed for more than 3 days. So you're going to have to do luggage. So that's going to add about 20 minutes. And then your drive back's about 55 minutes. So I know I need this much time before you get home. The temperature in the house is currently 62. You're away mode. I know it can heat about 2 degrees every hour, which means when you're about 47 minutes from landing, I'm going to turn the furnace on so that by the time you walk in the door, it just hits 70 degrees. There's no output. It didn't generate anything,
right.
But it's using all these pieces of information to really analyze it, digest what's going on, make decisions and execute it. And, that's where we can get, kind of down the rabbit hole on that side where it could just, it could get dangerous, right? Like, imagine how much control do you give these things to where you let them just run?
We've already given them too much, right? So, and it's hard to figure out how this works, right? That was a great example of behind the scenes working behind the scenes to come up with an idea that it gives you an answer. You say, well, why did you start it at 417, the furnace? Why did you do that? And it comes back and it gives you this, and I'm calculating the wind turbulence and I knew it was going to be a little 2 minutes late and you're sitting in row 26 and I know there's a number of elderly people sitting in front of you that are likely to be slow getting off the plane. I mean, it can get really detailed on this. Or I saw a text or a Facebook post from somebody on that plane that showed that it was delayed or there was a lot of turbulence and or somebody had a medical emergency and they need to get off early and so they're going to pull into a different gate and you're going to be further away. Just all these crazy things that we're not even thinking about. And so when it gives you that answer, you're like, okay, right? We keep laughing about this, but how am I supposed to argue with that? That's a pretty good answer. I guess 417 is close enough for me. But I think that's that part of it. We're going to keep talking about that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And all the things that you're not really thinking about that it can really do or that it's doing behind the scenes. So.
Oh, I'm with you on that one. So with that, I think we had a pretty fun kind of just general opining talk around for this episode today. So, to everyone that tuned in, thank you so much again for watching. We appreciate you, and we'll see you at the next one. Thanks again.